Good day, everyone. I hope you guys are good and welcome to our next session. And today we're going to be looking at the types of logistics. There's a lot of different types of logistics. Under the umbrella of logistics, there's a lot of different types of logistics, and today we're going to just be breaking them down and getting to understand each and every type that is there under the logistics umbrella. Now, the first one we're going to be looking at it is the military logistics, and this one it gets to focus on the right kind of support to the right place at the right time, and also although different types of logistics are there and they are roughly similar to each other, this specific one it is the deployment is very specific to the military environment. So we're looking at an environment whereby logistics goods have to move from whatever place they're moving from to where the soldiers are at. For example, ammunition has to move, the equipment has to move, vehicles and medical services, they have to move. If there's an emergency and some of the soldiers are injured, the medical services, the medical people have to be there on the ground, and while they're making their way to collect those people who are injured, those soldiers who are injured, it has to be done in a strategic way without harming the guys who are going to rescue. So remember, it's a war type of a setting, it's military, there's a lot of shootings, there's a lot of there's just a lot happening. So it has to be strategic to such an extent that we go to the war place and be able to rescue those guys, assist them medically, be it food supplies, be it medical supplies or vehicles, ammunition and all the other related equipment, making sure that they are sorted and assisted. And one has to be very strategic when they are planning these movements and making sure that the goods are at the soldiers at the right place at the right time. When the soldiers need this equipment, the equipment has to be there. So it should be a very strategic and well planned type of a logistics. Now there's engineering logistics. This one mainly focuses on the design part, the design or analyze the operational solutions for projects such as the transportation optimization, network modeling, process and methods analysis, the cost containment, capacity enhancement, routing and shipment optimization, and information management. So within engineering logistics, it is mainly focusing on the design part. How do we get to design a network for the processes and the logistics that we want to do? How do we get to cut costs with all the operations that are taking place? How do we make sure that we are cutting costs? How do we plan and design for the best route as possible of getting the products from point A to point B, the best route out of all the routes that exist, but the best route that we can use? The part of our systems, we engage with suppliers, and which systems are we going to use that would help us to be able to capture and save and store the information of, be it the customer's information, the supplier's information, or information just about the organization. So it gets to focus more on those type of processes and methods and approaches as well. Transportation optimization, we've got a particular load, and how do we transport this load? Which vehicle would be suitable for this particular load, and how big should it be? So the engineering logistics, it gets to focus more on that, more on the design part more than the operational or the physical part, but it focuses more on the design and analysis type of an angle. There's business logistics. Now, when it comes to business logistics, it focuses more on the entire set of processes that are involved when it comes to moving goods, whether from a supplier to a business, or from a business to a customer. The key concept is managing the processes as unified systems. So how do we get to manage the processes, all the activities that are involved for moving goods from the point of origin till the very end point of consumption? managing all of the activities that are there. So it usually focuses on that, and the business logistics, it focuses more especially on the planning of the framework that is concerned with the material procurement, materials management, and the overall inventory control. How do we get to manage the inventory that we've got? Are we going to ship half and stay with half as maybe safety stock in case there's disruptions in production? And with the products and inventory that we are keeping as a safety stock, where are we going to store it? Are we going to hire a facility, we rent out a warehouse, do we have enough space, type of a thing? So it usually focuses on that. The materials management, some materials they don't want to be stored at a particular environment. For example, hazardous products or frozen goods, you can't just store frozen goods in a room temperature type of a setting. You have to store them in a refrigerated setting. So it also looks at that, the materials management. How do we then get to manage the material that we use for production to make our finished goods? And the material procurement, also getting to select suppliers. How do we then get to select suppliers? This business logistics, they're responsible for that. We have to look for suppliers, select suppliers, the right and perfect candidates that would be able to supply us with the right material that we're looking for at the right prices, at the right time, and all of that. And business logistics systems, they consider to be very effective if they get to assist an organization to carry and store goods at a low cost, and also get to increase the profits of a particular organization. That is when we now say the business logistics or the business logistics team was very successful or is very effective. When we are, how we get to see the results of whether they were productive or not, whether they were effective or not, it is through profits. If we see profits, then we see that, and then we know that no, these guys were very proper in terms of executing their job and their tasks. But if profits are going down, if costs are going up, then definitely we know that whatever they are doing, they are not being effective, and therefore a plan has to be made. Now the production logistics, it takes place within a warehouse. It takes place within the production facilities, within a factory. Now it focuses on the flow of goods. That includes the management of procured products, parts, materials, and the distribution within a factory. The product management, how do we manage these products? How do we handle these products? How do we package these products that we're about to ship or that we are manufacturing? And therefore even the line of how the equipment or the machinery is laid out, it is very important to be well thought of and well designed and carefully designed. For example, in the inbound section, from the inbound, the first machine and the first process that has to happen to a particular product when it's still at its raw phase, it has to be close to the inbound. And then as it continues, as it goes, as it gets to be transformed towards the outbound, where now it is closer to the exit, that's where now the product is slowly becoming finished, so that when we are done manufacturing these products, they can easily be shipped and are very close to the outbound type of a setting. For example, products that are highly in demand, you cannot store them at the end of the warehouse. They have to be closer because they are highly in demand. Each and every day or each and every hour, these products are demanded or are in need, and therefore it is always important to make sure that they are placed strategically where there's easy access. Even maneuvering around the facility, it should be easy and not hinder the production process. Now the production logistics, it should also ensure the smooth and optimal flow of items from the raw material warehouse through the production onto the finished goods right until the end. And that is very important to ensure that there's a smooth flow and not a lot of up and down. That's why now you find in warehouses there's what you call conveyor belt, so that when this person is done with a particular process, or this machinery or equipment is done with a particular process, the conveyor belt then pushes it to the next process, so that it can be enhanced or manufactured or produced further. Instead of up and down, you take it from this person right until the very end to the next person. Then when it's coming from that particular worker, it is now coming back to the worker next to me, and therefore that would waste a lot of time of up and down. In business management, there's what you call time and motion studies. So within the production logistics, we have to make sure that we cut time as much as possible. We cut the unnecessary time, such as up and down, and make sure that we utilize the space and the time that we've got much more effectively. Now there's the reverse logistics, which focuses more on it is mainly the type of supply chain management that moves goods from the customers right back to the reseller, right back to the manufacturer, for various reasons. For example, you find that customers are now done consuming a particular product, and then because they are done consuming a particular product, now that product, be it for packaging that could be reused or recyclable, bottles, for example, that after using them, a bottle of whatever product or beverage, you can take it back to be recycled. That particular process, it is now reverse logistics, when products are coming from the customers back to the manufacturer. Sometimes we use reverse logistics when there are faulty goods. You buy a particular product and it stops performing according to the way you expected it, and it is still under a guarantee, then you can, or warranty, then you can return it back. Sometimes you are given the wrong order, and because that wrong order that you've received, it is not what you had ordered, then you have to take it back. Sometimes you are given the right order, but the quantity of the items that are there, it's not what you had expected. Sometimes you can return it back, or sometimes you can just ask the particular company to send more that is short. So that's where reverse logistics comes in. The returns of unsold goods by distribution partners, this happens a lot in vegetable and fruit type of sectors, whereby now veg or fruit or even bread is not sold, or even newspapers, those media companies that still print physical newspapers. For that particular unsold good or goods that were not sold, they have to go back, and when they go back, that is part of reverse logistics. There's things like your product recalls, when there's an issue with a particular product. Now that particular product has to be recalled, and all the products that has been sold have to go back, because maybe there was a factory fault, or there's an issue with that particular product which could cause harm to the consumers, and therefore the company or the manufacturer would then recall all the products, and that is part of reverse logistics. Construction logistics, it takes place within the construction environment. The process of planning, coordinating, and executing the transportation, storage, and distribution of materials and equipment needed for the construction projects. You'll notice that, let's say a building is built. Within that building, for it to be up like that, we need bricks, for example, we need ring force, we need cement, and for us to mix cement, we need water, we need sand, and we have to make sure that all that material that is required, it is there, and it is placed at a strategic place. Imagine, for example, if now we place cement far, and by the time it gets to where it is needed, it is no longer as soft as it was required to be, for example, or maybe placing the cement on the sun, and then when it is now needed, it is no longer as watery or the right type of a texture, as it was supposed to be. It's just an example, just thinking of something right now. So it is always important to be strategic as to how is the movement going to happen within the construction environment. So that is what construction logistics is basically about, the movement. Now if we have to pack bricks, where are we gonna pack bricks without them blocking the way for us? So it is just along those lines. Now there's humanitarian logistics. This one, it is very not too popular because natural disasters, they do happen, but it's not like an everyday thing whereby there's a natural disaster. Now this one, it focuses on the processes and systems that are involved in mobilizing people, resources, skills and knowledge to help vulnerable people that are affected by natural disasters and complex emergencies. There's things like the COVID-19 pandemic. Humanitarian logistics was needed there, as to how do we then get the right skills, the right resources, right knowledge out there to get to assist the people that are vulnerable. And therefore a lot of plans were made by the government as to how do we then get vaccines, and how are vaccines going to be distributed, how are we going to make sure that we record the people who got vaccinated, how are we going to make sure that we capture the statistics of those vaccinated versus those who are not vaccinated, how are we going to make sure that this system that we're going to be using is not going to be rigged, it's not going to be, there's no form of fraud that could happen, form of hacking of the system that could happen, and all of that. So within humanitarian logistics, it focuses mainly on helping the vulnerable that are affected by natural disasters, and it becomes very tricky because, for example, if you are at a place whereby there was a tsunami or even a volcano and those people that are affected are there, how do you then reach there? How do you then get the right medication or the right assistance to where the people are at? Because remember, now when there was a tsunami, we can't necessarily rely on road transport. We have to read the situation, look at what is happening, identify the right and suitable mode of transport to reach out to those people. Yeah, so it's mainly around that. If there was a volcano, how do we get there and assist those guys? If there was an earthquake and the buildings have crumbled and people are trapped down there, how do we then get to assist those guys without causing further harm? So yeah, that's what humanitarian logistics has to deal with, making sure that the right type of needed resources do get to the people that need those resources at the right time, at the right place, in the right condition, and in the right quantity. With that being said, thank you very much. That was just a rough overview of the different types of logistics, and thank you very much for attending the session. See you on the next session. Thank you.